Had the president gotten out sooner, there may have been other candidates in the race. The anticipation was that if the president were to step aside, that there would be an open primary. And as I say, Kamala may have, I think she would have done well in that and been stronger going forward. But we don't know that. That didn't happen. We live with what happened. And because the president endorsed Kamala Harris immediately, that really made it almost impossible to have a primary at that time. If it had been much earlier, it would have been different.
Well, the big thing to point to, and I think there's going to be a lot of introspection and finger pointing among Democrats, is how they went about selecting their nominee. It was not conventional, to say the least, to stand behind effectively an uncontested primary season behind an incumbent president who then you abandon at the final hour and replace with the vice president who was the natural pick in some ways, but there wasn't so much as a moment of introspection between him stepping down and the party rallying behind her, even though in 2020 she ran what was widely regarded as a lackluster campaign. And it isn't clear what her core kind of base of supporters, what it looks like. And I think there'll be a lot of, as I said, a lot of finger pointing about not just towards people, but also towards process. Just how was this allowed to happen? And what needs to happen going further to avoid this catastrophe from Democrats' point of view.
I think in retrospect, one of her biggest challenges wasn't about her. It was about the fact from the start you were running a candidate who was tied to a deeply unpopular administration. And once you see that, and that made it hard for her to position herself as the candidate of change, you will ask what made him unpopular, and why were his economic policies doing poorly, and immigration policies, even when there's metrics that show he's quite successful. So I think that conversation is going to happen. And then there's also going to be the conversation of why didn't he open the door earlier on to primaries, caucuses, or even her running by just running, governing for one term and being cognizant of his own limitations with age. All of that conversation is definitely coming, and it will impact his legacy. I think a president who did a lot will be also remembered for a president who was part of opening the door to what many Democrats consider a pretty radical conservative regime.
姐妹们总烦恼脸上细纹、干燥与暗沉，现在起跟我一起放心交给 KS Royal Face 皇家颜值逆时奇迹系列。KS Royal Face 皇家颜值逆时奇迹系列，它添加5种 EGF， 专门防止肌肤老化，强化皮肤修复，增加肌肤弹性水嫩，轻松抚平皱纹，换回青春自信。KS Royal Face 皇家颜值逆时奇迹，护肤露、全效精华、精华霜，即刻启动冻龄密码。